Friends. What would you do if one mistake shattered your spine? Doctors told you that you'd never walk again, and your dream life was snatched away at just 21. Would you give up, or would you rise again? This is the unbelievable story of Bear Grylls, the man the world knows today as Man vs. Wild. But before he became a legend, he faced death, pain, depression, and the greatest battle of his life. Man vs. Wild began in 2006, but 10 years before that, in 1996, Bear was skydiving in Zambia with his army friends. He had jumped from planes many times before, but this time, something went terribly wrong. Everything was going according to plan. One by one, Bear's friends jumped out of the plane. Then Bear also strapped on his parachute and leapt into the sky. The moment he jumped, he began falling at a speed of 200 kilometers per hour, from 15,000 feet down to 10,000 feet, then 5,000 feet. Within seconds, he was just 3,000 feet above the ground. At that moment, Bear opened his parachute, but even after opening it, his speed didn't slow down. He was still plummeting fast. Bear thought, "Why isn't my speed reducing? This is strange." Then he looked up at his parachute and the sight terrified him. The parachute had not opened properly. Its lines were tangled. Because of this, his descent wasn't slowing. He frantically began pulling at the lines, trying to free them so the parachute could open fully. But while he was struggling, the ground was already too close. He came crashing down through the trees and slammed onto the ground. Suddenly, everything went dark. Bear had landed flat on his back. The impact was so powerful, it felt as if someone had hammered a rock into his spine. Even after falling from such a great height, he was still conscious, but he couldn't move. He lay there, crying, hoping one of his friends would find him and save him. The pain was so unbearable that he thought, maybe death is better than this. But death didn't come. He kept writhing in agony for hours. Finally, after several hours, his friends arrived. They put him in a car and rushed him to the nearest hospital. Bear recalls, "The pain was so intense. I was writhing and slipping in and out of consciousness." When the doctors gave him an injection, the pain began to ease slowly. The next day, Bear asked the doctor, "Will I be okay? How long will it take?" The doctor showed him his x-rays and said, "Bear, 3 of your spinal vertebrae, T10, T8, and T12, are broken. These are the strongest bones of the human back, and now they're shattered. You will never be able to walk again." Hearing this, 21-year-old Bear's entire world collapsed. The man who once climbed mountains could no longer even walk to the bathroom. Bear says, "The fall from the parachute didn't hurt as much as the year I spent lying in that hospital bed." He would talk to himself, "You fool, you could have opened the parachute slowly instead of panicking." He kept replaying that moment, crying, cursing himself, thinking, it's all over. Nights were sleepless. He was drenched in sweat from anxiety and depression. 2 months passed, but instead of improving, his health worsened. The pain kept increasing, his body stiffening. He was angry at himself, frustrated, and drowning deeper into depression. Everyone thought Bear was a very positive person, but the truth was, at that time he was just a frightened 21-year-old boy. Then one day, his eyes fell on a picture of Mount Everest hanging on the hospital wall. Bear says, "Who knew that one small picture would change my life forever?" Climbing Mount Everest had always been his and his father's dream, but at that moment, Bear couldn't even stand on his feet. Still, despite the metal braces on his back, he somehow got up, staggered toward that picture, looked at it, and said to himself, "No matter what happens, I will not only walk again, I will climb Mount Everest." That thought rooted itself deep in his subconscious. The very next morning, he remembered something his grandmother used to tell him, "Son, everything in life happens for the good." This gave Bear a new perspective. He thought, I could have died. I could have lost my arms, legs, even my eyes, but it's only my spine that's broken. That means God has a bigger plan for me. When he truly felt this in his heart, his stress and negativity began to fade. First, he repaired his mind. Then, naturally, his body began to heal. His wounds started closing. His bones began mending. One day, a close friend told him, "Life and death are in God's hands, and God has given you a second life." Bear says, "Life doesn't usually give us a second chance, but if it does, be grateful." And Bear was grateful for his life, for his broken back, and for his dreams. He picked up the picture of Everest again and shouted, "As soon as I recover, I will touch the summit of Mount Everest." That goal became his greatest strength, his reason to live. When he told people about his dream, they mocked him, but his purpose was clear. He had to recover quickly. 3 months later, his pain reduced. 6 months later, he was discharged from the hospital. Within a year, he was fully healed. But the doctors told him he could never return to the special forces. Bear resigned from the army. Now, he had no job and no income. And to climb Everest, he needed 5 million rupees, money he didn't have. For a whole month, he wrote to 250 companies seeking sponsorship. All of them rejected him. Then one day, he visited a company called Davis London and Everest. After much pleading, he met their CEO. Seeing Bear's passion, the company finally agreed to sponsor him. But his challenges were far from over. In 1996, just 2 years earlier, 8 people had died attempting to climb Everest due to bad weather. Bear trained hard, pushing himself to the limit. Then came April 1998, the day Bear and his team began their Everest climb. At one point, Bear slipped into a crevasse. Only a rope saved his life. His teammates pulled him out. He was badly injured, and doctors told him to rest for a few days. After some recovery, he prepared to climb again. But just then, another piece of bad news struck. A storm was heading for Everest, which would make climbing impossible. At the very last moment, the storm shifted direction. Seizing the chance, Bear and his team resumed their ascent. After 17 continuous hours of climbing, on May 16, 1998, at the age of just 23, and only 18 months after his parachuting accident, Bear Grylls reached the summit of Mount Everest, the highest point on Earth. It wasn't easy. 4 of his fellow climbers lost their lives. Bear himself narrowly escaped death twice. But after this, his story spread worldwide. Documentaries were made about him, and eventually, he got the opportunity to work with Discovery Channel. And that's how the world came to know him as the face of man versus wild. Years later, someone asked Bear, "Does that accident from 25 years ago still hurt?" He posted a picture of himself and wrote, "Yes, I still feel pain every single day. But what can I do? Every person has to fight their own pain, and I'm just grateful that life gave me another chance." From this story, I will give you 2 powerful lessons. Lesson number 1. Life is a priceless gift. If someone else had been in Bear Grylls' place, they might have spent their whole life cursing that accident, reliving the moment their parachute didn't open, when they jumped out of that plane, when they went to Africa. But when life hit Bear, he stood up and hit back harder. Remember this: life doesn't knock you down to destroy you. Pain doesn't come to break you, it comes to make you stronger. The more suffering you endure, the more discomfort you embrace, the stronger you become. So welcome discomfort in every form, because life grows only through discomfort. With discomfort comes growth. Break old things, old thoughts, old bad habits. Yes, breaking them will hurt, but that pain will rebuild your life. Lesson number 2. People often ask Bear, "How did you achieve so much? What's the secret?" Bear says, "The secret is keep going, keep moving forward." He had promised himself that he would live without fear for the rest of his life. And that's why, despite countless challenges, he never stopped. There are 2 kinds of people in this world. 1, the brave ones, who challenge themselves, test their limits, choose the difficult path, even if it means enduring pain. 2, the fearful ones, who live only to survive, to stay safe. We only get one life, and yet 99% of people play just to survive, not to win, not to achieve their true potential. If you want to escape your sorrow and emptiness, be ready to do something bigger, something new. Courage doesn't mean being fearless. It means facing your fears, finding a way through them, and moving forward anyway.